State of our union still strong, up 9% on response, up 21% over year in September. Not our best average gift month though, so our best growth, but apparently gifts trailed off a little bit last December, so we're up over that. Good to see. Up 32% on revenue. So this is from the Just Caging data, and shows that tacticals are still working. COVID bump is still to some extent in effect, and we're still trucking along in the mail especially. Some general trends that we've seen from Blackbaud's donor-centrics reports. At the beginning part of the last decade, we lost 12% of our donors. And then the 5 years before that, we also lost 12% of our donors. And so there was this losing a quarter of all donors in a 10-year period. Thankfully, that leveled out a little bit toward the end of the last decade. And you can really see, starting in about Q3 of last year, this increase in the number of donors. So 7%, almost 8% increase in the number of donors. And then the index revenue went up immediately with COVID. That's that average gift jump that you saw back in April of last year. And that's been consistent. So average gift drove it originally. Now additional donors coming in are driving it, which is great to see. And hopefully we can keep these folks in philanthropy. There are a few different wealthier donor studies recently. Donor Advised Fund donor donations from Vanguard had a 9% year-over-year increase. Now they have their fiscal that ends in June, so that would have been a nice, pretty good COVID versus non-COVID time period. Only a 19% payout from those DAFs, so this is a good reminder. The Half My DAF movement, people giving out during those times of needs, half of their Donor Advised Fund every year, and those matching funds associated with it. Let's keep that going, and you can see the YouTube link to our discussion with the founders of the Half My DAF movement there. Fidelity did a survey of $1,000 plus donors. So you see that 26% gave notably more or plan to this year, 7% notably less. So good news from these donors. More than half of them say that they were impacted by either COVID or social justice movements or both, which is also good to see. 45%, only 45% said that neither had an impact on them and their giving. There was some shift in giving. People said that they would give more over the long term and change the causes they support over the long term. Now, 36% sounds like it's not that much in terms of changing the causes you support. But as we know, people tend to stick with the same charities year after year. And so 36% of people saying, yes, I will change that over the long term is actually pretty impressive. We know that times of strife tend to bring people out and make them more pliable in a lot of their behaviors, willing to change their toothpaste flavor or move or those sorts of things. And charitable causes are right with that. Large amount of the movement are to local and community needs and hunger among these groups. This shows the correlation, but not perfect correlation between awareness and giving, because you can see people were more aware of treatments and cures for disease, not shocking, in the past year, but that came in third behind local community needs and hunger as to whether I will give more to this issue in 2021. Not surprisingly, preserving arts and culture, we've seen challenges in the cultural sector. Only 13% said they would be giving more to that area. There's this shift toward non-traditional giving. People said that they would give less through online platforms and through social media platforms. And the number one giving method in terms of increasing is purchasing products from a socially responsible business, which, as we know on this call, isn't giving. You are still getting a product. And so since we are in the dopamine business, since we are in the business of making people feel good as a result of getting their donation, not necessarily feeling good as in I'm a savior, or good as in I feel like the work is done, but feel good that they are a part of the solution. The idea that purchasing products from a socially responsible business has the same impact as that really isn't the case. And so it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are customizing to the why of people giving, or we're going to be losing out to purchasing products I gave money directly, and not to the types of systemic changes that we know need to happen. Bank of America took a look not necessarily at big givers, but people with an income of over $200,000 a year and a $100 million plus net worth. An increase among these donors, a 48% increase in giving over the past 3 years, generally across age groups and sexes, more giving to charity. Not surprising, people 38 and younger tended to give a little less, but still 81% is nothing to sneeze at. You can see that there are a number of different categories that people say they're giving to that are receiving more than 20% donations. But here's the difference between giving and givers and giving. Only one category, religion, got more than 20% of the dollars, since more than you're only able to choose one in this category and multiple in the previous category. Basic needs at about 20%, everything else at 10% or under. So there's a focus among these larger net worth donors on religion basic needs. And it's interesting to see that religion's number 2 in terms of people giving to it, but the people who give to it give a lot to it. When people are giving to basic needs, they're giving by and large to their local community. There's a drop to national, and then there's a drop from that to international. This is something that we've worried about broadly during the pandemic. When there are difficult times, people tend to draw inward and support their in-groups more, hence more giving to individuals that they know, not as much charity for international relief. And that's something that we know that there are challenges abroad just as there are here, and hopefully we'll be able to activate people for both, quite honestly. You see an increase in giving vehicles, planned giving and donor advised fund giving. And this is interesting in that they separated those people who volunteer their time and non-volunteers. And you see more than twice as much giving among affluent donors who had volunteered in the previous year. And this is a really good indication of why we don't want to look at just transactional data, why you want to have all of the different types of data in your stew. If you have a variable that can predict a doubling of someone's giving, that is that they volunteer to an organization, you need that data in your database. And so those types of questions that you're asking of donors, your individual volunteer file, those bits of data can be really valuable as you're modeling for who's going to be your most valuable donors. Household survey came out in July. Quite honestly, I missed it at the time, didn't cover it, so going to it now. There was a significant mail drop in 2020. You can see all mail down here went from 143 billion pieces of mail to 129 billion. 129 billion of anything still sounds very large. I would be fine with 129 billion pennies. But that's a significant drop off from even the drop off from 2018 to 2019. So COVID really did a number on things. You can see a significant drop in marketing mail as a large component of that. Not surprising, the amount that people get mailed goes up with their wealth and goes up with their education level. Those are more sought after consumers by and large. Also, your reminder that Excel is not your friend for charts. When you put 12 to 17 into Excel and you don't put that apostrophe in front of it, it will think that it's a date. So in a major government report, you have December 17th as a number of pieces per household per week you get. I'm not making fun of, hopefully not making fun of the Postal Service here, as goodness knows I have made plenty of these mistakes, but it's always a good reminder when you can learn from someone else. You can see also that even when you control for wealth, the amount of mail you get as you get older goes up significantly. So double by and large, the over 55 age group versus the under 34 age group in the amount of mail that people get. We here in the nonprofit sector are a large segment of advertising mail, 12 billion pieces out from the social goods sector. We tried to pull a number for how many of those come from the Moore enterprise. We got to about 1.9 billion pieces last year. So we touch about, what is that, about 15% of it. We do want to crack the 2 billion mark this year, knock on wood. We've bet in about 12 billion pieces for a while now. Well, as other sectors have ebbed and flowed, we've been pretty steady Eddie for 2 decades in terms of the amount of mail volume that we get. Generally speaking, about 3/4 of people pieces get read or scanned. It hasn't changed much in the past few years, but if you go about 3 decades back, you can look and see that only 9% of mail pieces didn't get read, and now that's about 26%. So there is a jump up in that category. People talk about mail fatigue, and it turns out that people who get 18 plus marketing mail pieces per week are not reading their mail less than people who get 0 to 7 pieces per week or 8 to 10 pieces per week. And so it's pretty steady in terms of whether someone's likely to reach their mail. Now, I'm not going to speculate if someone gets 40 different marketing pieces per week. Yes, they're probably less likely to read them, but we don't have these data at this point. But over 18 marketing pieces per week, still pretty significant, still essentially the same readership. The more affluent folks read their mail less, but are just as likely or more likely to act on the mail that they do receive. And then bill paying, a significant part of USPS has gone largely online. Not a huge surprise there, but that's a big factor in the mail volume drop that USPS is seeing. Any questions on any of that? Okay. Looking at the nonprofit job market, nonprofits are facing similar retention challenges to everyone else. More than half of organizations say that COVID impacted retention strategies. How could it not when people are trying to figure out whether to work from home and how do you retain a home employee, those sorts of things. It's been hardest with entry and mid-level folks. Only 5% said senior staff are the hardest to retain. And people are saying that they're leaving because the top 2 reasons are opportunity and opportunity, either that they got a better opportunity or they think there's an opportunity, there would be better opportunities elsewhere. So the more that we can provide those opportunities, even if it's not position, if it's education, if it's the chance to grow in other ways, the more that we can be providing those, the better off that we're going to be. Going into the ever popular potpourri section, I should preface this with do not buy a fake COVID vaccination card. It is illegal, it is immoral, but if you're going to buy one, especially don't buy one from the dozens of fake vaccination cards that were seized at O'Hare. Cunning Border Patrol and Customs folks were able to notice that return was misspelled and sure was misspelled and COVID was misspelled twice in 2 different ways. If I spoke Spanish, I'm guessing that the Spanish is also misspelled as well. Again, creating, buying, selling fake vaccination cards is illegal. You can face fines or prison time. So I'm kind of glad that we have such low rent criminals on the case. On August 31st of this year, 5 zebras escaped from a private farm in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. The chief of the Prince George's County Animal Services Division said he thought people were kidding at first, but now has been trying to round them up. And zebras, because they were trained, they've learned how to escape predators like lions on the savannah, they can run very fast at a moment's notice. So people have seen these zebras all over, I guess that's southeastern Maryland, but haven't been able to catch them yet. Animal control has tried to lure them in with grain and things like that, but they haven't been able to. You'll be happy to note that the story that I read about this talked to a Princeton University researcher, and they said, the warmness of a zebra's coat during the winter should protect them. They have a high metabolism. As long as they're able to get food, they should be still happy as clams out in the Maryland wilderness, even in winter. And since we're talking wildlife, this is 480 Otis. And he is, once again, the winner of Fat Bear Week. He was also champion in 2014, 2016, and 2017. The Katmai National Park in Southwest Alaska runs this competition with voting all across the nation. They don't know exactly how much Otis weighs this year, but like myself, he weighed less last year, and last year he weighed 1,000 pounds. So this is not fat shaming. The fatter a bear is, the healthier they will be when they emerge from hibernation. So 480 Otis is a very healthy bear and cute. So upcoming education, don't have the same list that we usually do. We knew folks would be focused on other things in November and December, but we don't yet have a link for this one, but we are going to be doing, in conjunction with Nonprofit Times, a webinar about programmatic advertising and how it can activate for any budget. That'll be folks from our Simio Cloud, folks from DDTV, and then we'll be joined by Save the Children, talking about their connected TV and targeted digital advertising program. So we'll talk through how programmatic works, targeting strategies, how co-ops can help, and how nonprofits have used connected TV and programmatic advertising.